This week on Dumb Pitches, my guest is in studio, Joshua Dean, and he tells a full story about trying to make a movie with Tom Sizemore about 2 years before he passes away. And you've never seen that film because it didn't get made, and this is the story why. It's a great episode. Dumb Pitches. Here we go.
What a bunch of dumb pitches. Oh my goodness.
Welcome to another episode of Dumb Pitches with Monica Nevi. I'm Monica Nevi, your host. This is the show where we talk to successful people about their worst ideas. Very, very excited for our guest in studio. Joshua Dean is here with me. There you are. You're on. You're on now. There you go.
I don't get the big monitor. Oh, the little one.
No,
all right, what kind of
because we didn't want you to be too distracted by
shifty
yourself.
Operation is this? No, it's so fancy. I love this.
It's great. Thank you for being here. People and honestly, everyone really appreciates it when you're in person. So so don't fuck it up.
No, we're coming back from a long hiatus of in person.
Yeah.
Interactions. I actually think that it's at this point it's just people using it as excuses. You know?
Like, oh, sorry, I can't meet you in person.
It's a little expired, right? I think everybody, and then we get this little like bump where they're like, new
and maybe that's why people like it better when people are in person here, because they're like, well, they're in the same room. That's cool.
Yeah.
Look at them being dangerous.
We're losing sight of what's important here, which is human interaction.
Okay. We didn't know we were going to start with philosophy right away here.
A very philosophical
but I don't think
person.
Anybody...
I know it doesn't. When you look at me initially, I look like a proud boy, but I'm very, very philosophical and progressive, I promise you.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, this is how we like to start the show. We like to give your credits, your good ideas, so that people know you haven't only had bad ideas. So, Joshua Dean, we met just through comedy. You're a comedian, writer. I would say your artistic endeavors, though, expand a little bit past comedy.
Yeah.
You are, I was going to say very good at memes. That's a weird thing to say that, but not like, what you do is not memes and like, here's a picture of a rabbit and I wrote something funny over it. It's like jokes.
Yeah. I draw them.
Yeah. And then that's what I was going to say. Artist, I have some of your artwork on my wall in my office, actually. Really, so just a lot of different, which actually we really like, kind of a diverse thing to pull from, but then you also made a lot of like sketch film stuff, producing things. I mean, it goes down the list, and that's separate from you're a veteran, you have other jobs. I mean, you're a busy person.
Sounds all made up.
We
have these stories. I talk to my wife about we'll be out to dinner hanging out with somebody, and you start talking about the things you've done, and it does almost sound made up a little bit. Not because I'm like super cool, it's just I think it's so random because people have a hard time making the connection between my military service and then 180 and like then my childhood.
And then we've talked about
and then the comedy stuff.
Now you're in like Ashland, Oregon, which is it's a little hippie little pocket in Southern Oregon.
Right.
And you look the way that you do.
I know.
So sometimes you'll be driving your wife's car with all these like
she has so it's
stickers on it.
It's a lot of passive aggressive shit on it, and so we just got her plates converted over to the Oregon plates, so that was a real big trigger.
Were they
for
California
Southern
before?
Oregon. Because you're kind of in a safe bubble, right? The elven city of Ashland, and then once you go and beyond the Shire, it's just lifted.
It is look like a
trucks.
Shire, actually.
So
if you've never been
in Alexis, I'll say her name. So I was like, I'm like,
she's
the
a real
fame
person
that
you haven't
somebody will
thought
be
of a
able to
name
track
for.
down. Nobody's tracking me down. But it'll be, I'm on I-5. I'm in her car. It used to be I'm in the slow lane because it's a that's how I drive, and nobody's around me, and I just look in the rearview mirror. It's just tires. right?
Yeah.
And I always kind of have to like, look in the rearview mirror, and then I see like construction safety yellow,
Right.
goatee, mirrored lenses of some variety, and so she has the it used to be the California plate, and I think that was the initial trigger, and then and then by the time they're at the rear quarter panel, the sticker that says like, sorry for following so close in front of you, or something like that. So by the time they're coming up to me, they're just I always know what's happening because they rip around to the the fast lane to pass me, but then they always take that pause to look over,
to look and be like, hey,
and then
bitch,
and I think
and
then I think they're expecting something else, and then they see me,
and
they're like, but you look like me,
you look
and I look like you, and then they question their sexuality and move on.
They were probably already doing that.
Yeah, no, that's why they.
They're like, man, look at that handsome fellow with all those stickers on his car.
But then I always look up and I'm like, hey, it's stolen.
Don't worry.
Then give me the thumbs up. And,
Okay.
No, I like Southern Oregon though. It's a fun spot.
Yeah, which is I didn't know much about Ashland really until you moved there, and then it's the Shire is really a good way to describe what it looks like. It's because what is it? It's like the Shakespeare Festival or something is kind of what they're known for.
Yeah.
So very artsy, but it's pretty, and like there's like creeks through everything and stone bridges, and yeah,
I'm making a lot of connections with the Labyrinth, the movie, the Labyrinth and the town. So, but I'm saving that for my next big stand-up debut.
Yeah.
Return.
My next debut. You're like, I just keep debuting.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do something big with my life. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. We're happy for you.
Happy to be in
good
Seattle.
Stuff. Yeah. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
Too.
Been
This
busy.
worked out well, but we're doing normal stuff, kind of going to see shows and.
I went to a podcast live show.
There you go.
True Crime Obsessed.
Good.
It's not as good as this one.
Well,
but it's pretty good.
We're not at the Neptune right now, but yeah.
Hey, listen, I don't have a problem plugging them, but we know where the real creativity and the talent.
Somebody else asked me about doing this show live and how that would work. I don't know.
You could.
But yeah.
Do you think?
You could do a lot of like audience.
Yeah.
Let's make a bad idea of our own first, and then we'll move on to yours.
Well, yeah, no, I was going to ask you, do you think the video has to, it's here to stay, right?
I don't know. It seems like having both
the YouTube piece?
Yeah. I don't, well, actually, we started this because I wanted more videos on my YouTube. Like, that was what we were doing during COVID, was focusing on YouTube. And that is monetized, and that's actually like the only platform of mine that's really monetized. And so we just wanted the video, and then this is on the Helium Podcast Network. Ooh. And they were like, oh, we'll take the audio.
Great clubs.
So yeah, when that's who I did my special with and stuff. So it actually wasn't intended to be a podcast. It was just, it was, but the video was first. Right. And then putting it on the other things was secondary, but it's worked out, and I actually think it works well as a podcast. Like, even you don't necessarily, it's nice to see us. We dressed up from here up, but
do you wonder how many people during that time where it was just audio who sounded fun, right? Like, it sounded, because you could make up whatever you wanted with how they looked, and then
radio people, and then you see them in real life and you're like, whoa, that's what they look like.
Yeah, I don't want to listen anymore. And that's super.
I saw them and I decided I don't want to listen anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty superficial. But that's when you.
But that's
when you're
what they say. You have an
icon.
That's true.
Such as myself.
Ashland fashion icon. That's the joke then, right? Yeah. That you have a face for radio. Yeah. That's good. Okay. So yeah, we could do it. You could do it live, where I think maybe I'd have one guest, but then also we'd do audience bad ideas. Yeah. Like they could tell us theirs, maybe. I think, maybe. What do you think?
So we had a I don't know. I don't think I'll ever do this idea.
Is this one of your bad ideas, or are you pitching us?
Well, I'm sure. I don't even know if it's been done. Have you ever had the great idea and then you're nervous to look it up to see if anybody's done it?
Yeah.
Because you're like, you just be like, I'm a genius.
That's kind of the situation I'm in currently.
Really? Yeah, I do that with especially with jokes or like the illustrations. I'm like, I wonder if anybody's done a buffalo pun yet, you know, or
Yeah.
mountain pun like me. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
I did the Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
And it's one of my, and it says I peaked in 80.
I think I have that one.
You might have that one.
Yeah.
And I was so excited,
Or
but I
maybe you
was so
get-
nervous before I started
No, I think I have the
drawing it.
Blow Me one.
the
He
blow.
also
Oh
has
yeah, because I did a
Mount St.
variation. I
Helens.
did
That
Blow
says
Me,
Blow Me.
and then I peaked in 80. Both very groundbreaking
In the art world.
in
yeah.
the comedic art world. So
I mean, I enjoyed it. Anyways.
yeah,
Um,
so having my merch program is great. Now I just got to get a
I mean,
funny.
have you
funny
ever
hour.
like brought those to shows? I mean, I don't know how much you're selling
Yeah,
merch
I
after stuff,
don't-
but
you know, it started becoming a second business, and
yeah, I knew you could buy them online at some
yeah,
point. Right?
and so that's hard because like I work. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I know it's gonna be a
Like,
shocker.
how many jobs do I
Shocker
have to have?
people that are not just killing it with all my specials. But it became a job, and then I was still I was still in the military. I only actually retired. I
Only like
uh,
last year, right?
last year.
Yeah.
I did 22 years in that.
Well, that was the hardest part. We would try to do shows together, and then
Organization.
you'd be like, "Oh, I have to actually
Yeah.
go do whatever."
stuff, right.
I
And
don't know what he's doing. But
I remember once I was selling my art, and online, and I had to go. My unit got sent to fires, as we do, cheap labor,
Yeah.
right? Cheap government labor, state labor, and I remember like missing a couple orders, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and the consumer world is not. They have very little patience
Yeah.
for you, and I remember just feeling like. I came back, from being a hero, obviously. And I remember I had it was on Instagram, and this woman's niece had tagged on all my posts, my art. Yeah. And was like, this scam took my aunt's $30.
yeah, I was gonna
and,
say they're not that
created
expensive.
his wealth empire and never looked back. I'm like, what do you, okay.
Basically.
But it still gave me stress because nobody
Oh, for
wants
sure.
to, you're trying to do a thing. You're I just want to make people, happy with these, with this stuff and
mountain
and
drawing, yeah.
save trees and people or whatever I was doing,
Yeah,
No, I
you
didn't
can't do
any of that.
both.
I didn't save anybody.
You can only have 3 jobs at a time.
I
Okay?
didn't save anybody. I just want to make that clear. Stolen.
Just wanna make-
It's not stolen valor. I promise. I mean, I was on SEAL Team 6, but whatever. I mean, no.
They were putting out fires. So that.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm ready to hear.
The story.
Yeah.
One of the stories.
One of the stories,
the
whatever you got here
bitches.
for your bad idea. Which,
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see.
How do you want to open that?
What do you? Well, I mean,
I can
this is how
just
we
go
normally
into
go.
one day. No. So
this is bad ideas. This is what we're getting into, and that's all
Yeah.
we need to know.
yeah.
Go
Well,
for
I
it.
don't think it wasn't a bad idea. I
Didn't
think
start that
it didn't
way.
start straight. They all start as great ideas.
Yeah.
And then they morph into
Whatever they're gonna
the
be.
Me Too movement or whatever. Big transition. So my very good friend and one of my creative, writing partners, Nicholas Mezzanato, it started with us. I don't know if I should back it up. So Nick wrote a movie called Acts of
It
Violence.
was a full movie.
Full movie,
Yeah.
shitty Bruce Willis. Not that Bruce Willis is shitty, but it's one of those
Action.
lower budget where
Got it.
the entire budget goes to Bruce.
The one actor that has
he
a name.
shoots everything in a week, and then everything else is just people and words and
In the desert in Oregon or
right.
whatever.
So so it was a great storyline, good script, solid script. Got into a mediocre film.
Was it funny at all, or was it just supposed
No, it was
to be
about human
action,
trafficking, right?
okay.
So it was I never watched it. I watched a little bit, and it was kind of a straight to Redbox and then streamed on Netflix. Anyway, so with the success of that, at least for Nick, and Nick had been on other projects, but I think, but he was able to have a little more access, especially to actors that were more supportive of military creatives or people that had served.
Mhm.
And so
Nick was also in the military,
he did as well. And Tom, so this is a Tom Sizemore story. I guess I should have included his name somewhere in the way.
I'll
but
put it in the title.
But Tom Sizemore, I mean, when I joined in 2000, so prior to 9/11, I mean, Tom was a heavy hitter in the late 90s and early 2000s. So he had, Heat, Black Hawk Down, Saving Private Ryan.
A lot of military stuff.
Yeah, so he's very, very supportive of the military community. So there was a lot of access that we had. So we wrote this. The storyline was that Tom was leaving acting, which we didn't have to go too far. Out. And rest in peace, by the way.
Right.
I should have said that as well. So, but he'll live on forever in our hearts.
In this podcast.
Yeah, in this podcast. So he was accessible. Or what am I saying? So the storyline, it's the ADD. So the storyline was that he's quitting acting. He's going to leave LA. He's leaving it all behind, and he's moving to a little farm in Central Oregon, where the idea is that he was gonna buy this farm, and he would flip it. He'd put all his money, he'd flip it, and then could retire and wherever to do, whatever Tom Sizemore likes to do. It wasn't far off from his life.
From what was going on.
We were writing it to his real life sort of situation.
Well, because it's okay. So you're making this movie, but he's still playing himself.
He's playing himself. So we're not going. I mean, the writing is easy.
Yeah.
And so the idea is he would go to this farm. Because it was an site. It was an unseen. Did not visit. He finds out that there's a commune living on the premises, and as
I was gonna say, it was that part of Oregon.
Again, this isn't groundbreaking, pioneering level of thought here, and he needs them to leave, but they try to convince him, right? So they're like, listen, if give us a chance. If you find that there's nothing here for you, then we'll leave, we'll leave peacefully, but just give us a chance to show you what we're doing here, sort of thing. So it was sort of this comedic, I don't know, I would say like, it wasn't like slapsticky, it wasn't,
that's an interesting, I mean, I don't think
that's... It was going to be a sincere...
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, because it is very reflective of a lot of real things, not just for him, but what was, cults and all that stuff are like popular right now. That's a real thing going on in Central Oregon. I mean, this isn't so extravagant that you're like, that would never happen. Right. It's like, no, that could maybe actually happen.
Well, and again, it wasn't to show the extremes, right? It was to show like legitimate holistic practices, right, but also mixed in with the the addiction piece, because they see that he, again, to his real life persona.
Was he cool with that part of it? I mean, it's like,
he was great with the storyline, but I mean, Tom was also, I mean, again, I'm not here to talk shit about his life or his choices or his final years at all. Like, he was he was great getting to know him for that time period, but he was not getting a ton of opportunities to even work at all, and we aren't big time movie makers or show makers. So I think it was an opportunity where we he wanted to help out us, we wanted to get him on a project that he actually was very interested into, and make again, I'm not so much on the business side, but make him an executive producer. Then he has the opportunity to be a little more successful if it did well. So he was fine with all that, but expectation versus reality was interesting, because again, this is sort of a motley crew of film creatives, filmmakers, whatnot, makeup, everybody getting together to just be a part of a project in Central Oregon. Just because, again, Central Oregon is not necessarily a hub of Hollywood magic.
I was going to say, filmmaking,
Right. So we, I was traveling over on weekends, so working, Monday through Friday, and then leave Friday, drive over.
Were
He
they-
would fly up.
Oh, really?
Tom would fly up, yeah, from LA.
So you're just filming on weekends, basically. It's not going on.
Yeah,
to-
like
okay.
plan, do our writing, plan it all out. I mean, we put a lot of resources and work into it, but I remember the very first weekend that we were filming, Tom doesn't even get on the plane.
He just doesn't get on the plane.
No.
Was there an explanation for that?
I think he said he had a family emergency or
Okay.
something, but it was just like...
Okay, we had planned this schedule,
Yeah,
and then the very
yeah.
first
And
one doesn't even happen.
And I remember just being like, it wasn't so much it was a blow, but you have so much excitement. This is a first project with a recognizable name, regardless of his past and his current work environment.
Even
this
just
is
a project like that's a big,
Yeah.
a full length anything is
Yeah.
actually starting to happen. I mean, that's
right.
exciting regardless.
Yeah, you're just like, I'm getting to be a part of something and utilize something that, some people think I'm all right at, I haven't convinced myself, but it was, so
see
he
by
doesn't
the
get
end
on
of
the
the
plane. So
story.
I'm like, did we just get should we get
Just get
catfished? by
Sizemore.
Tom?
Yeah.
Catfished by, yeah. But so he doesn't get on the plane. So we're not really scrambling. We're just kind of sitting there, like, all right. Well, I
Did
guess.
you do anything that weekend? Like, did
Well,
you?
he did. He got on. So we're kind of waiting to see what he says, and he does. He gets on another plane, gets another ticket, gets on the next day, I guess. But he gets in. They lose his luggage, and he was real stressed out about that because, again, this is just sort of the details that emerged from the things he said about it, and his medications were
in
his bags, and
Okay.
so I was pretty stressed out about it.
Got it.
But anyway, so that was sort of the vibe of
Well, and that's how you're starting.
yeah, and that's how we're starting.
Yeah.
So it kind
Day
of
one.
so I'm kind of like, that's my first real exposure to this with this project, and I'm like, it immediately deflates you, because you're like, why
Right.
the fuck am I coming over for
People to not
this
show
is all
up or
my work
whatever,
for
yeah.
people to not show up, and so anyway, so he did he did show up, but and we again we did a lot of just, it was the first weekend. It was a lot of test shots. It was a lot of preparing for the pilot episode, but we had this beautiful backdrop. It was out in the country, central Oregon. Had the mountains in the background, very picturesque. So it's not a horrible place to spend your weekend,
Right.
but with the idea that you're gonna move forward and
Yeah.
make something. But and I'll get to, you said, did you do anything else while you were there? We did, but anyway, because we had all the resources, we had all the camera people, so we started doing all these little sketch
Okay. Right.
comedy
Well, I knew
bits,
that about
and
that.
that was
Yeah,
super
yeah.
fun, right? Because we
So this is like while you're waiting.
we're
Essentially.
waiting, and so we would just start riffing on little sketches, like, what if we did this, and Nick and I would just be rolling, in our own self-indulgence,
Right,
right?
like, this is great,
Like,
yeah.
you're funny, just giving each other back rubs, and so we did do little fun projects, which did make it worth it. But the Tom thing was just really fascinating, just watching sort of this guy, this actor, now in your presence, and then like his real life coming out. So I remember when he got there, he really needed a butane torch lighter. It was very specific that it needed to be a torch. So already you're like,
right.
okay.
Okay.
And this was somebody that couldn't be seen in bars with us, right? Like, we couldn't even go out to a bar. I mean, with his, with sobriety and whatnot. And so again, I won't say, can't confirm the things that he was still partaking in,
Right.
and don't want to speculate, but we were traveling around. I remember on like I think it was like Memorial Day, and we're trying to find places that are open so that he can get a torch lighter. So we're at like a Ace Hardware,
Well, yeah, I don't know. You can't go to a gas station and get
having to go to like the
butane
area
torch.
that's locked up, because it's like spray paint and
Right.
torch lighters and whatnot,
Benadryl.
and you could tell that people knew who
Knew who he was.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but then they were like, why is he in a
That
Central
would be,
Oregon Ace
yes.
Hardware looking for
I'm
a-
sure someone has a story of like,
Yeah.
a couple years before he died, he was buying a torch lighter from the, the hardware store.
And and again, between I don't think I think we anticipated some hiccups,
Yeah.
but again, it made you think, like, what does the longevity of a project like this look like when it's somebody dealing with things that creates some unreliability factors.
Right.
So because even with the again, not speculating on usage, but I'd be going in the bathroom after him at the farmhouse, and it would just be, I remember one day, again, I walked in and I didn't say anything, right? I was just walking in after him, and it was kind of
smoky.
It was a little but
Okay.
kind of a not a real normal familiar
Right.
smoky smell, but and I just remember him being like, I was just doing a dab. And I'm like, he's like, you know what a dab is, right? He's like, of course you do. Everybody knows what a dab is. And I was just like, man.
We're in Oregon, I guess. I
just
don't know.
want to take a
Yeah,
piss.
I just gotta pee.
Just gotta
Can
pee
you
really bad.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how much do you get out of him, I guess? So you get this first weekend, right? Is it like, does the schedule continue? Is he coming back up?
Yeah,
or is there like...
Well, what's interesting, so again, we did a bunch of work. We did film, some segments, and it was really just to get everybody together to sort of get the flow of how this would work, and again, some test shots, and the idea would be, again, we'd fly him up pretty much every weekend,
Yeah.
or whenever there was availability, and he just it was like shortly after the #MeToo stuff. You saw some of the first people get hit with that, and then and some had these big issues, right? Where it was major, big cancellations, and then you saw a lot of people just kind of getting, I'm not saying unjustifiably, but they were getting
just lesser kind of...
lesser, but everybody,
wasn't
it was
as viral.
everybody, there was a lot of digging into pasts and
Yeah.
seeing who had been involved in what. And like Tom, again, he's not some heavy hitting A-lister at this point, and he gets brought into
Stuff
the
got
mix.
brought up about him.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
See,
and
I didn't
I'm
even
not-
know, because that would have gotten lost in the bigger stories
Right.
that were happening at that time. But
Yeah.
there was a lot going on.
And there was a lot, and like I said, it's not like,
Okay.
oh, it's a nothingness. It's not a little
sorry,
deal.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm just laughing at the fact
Monica's
that you're
laughing
like,
at
here's
me
this
too. No.
this project we're gonna do. We bring up someone who was now showing some inconsistencies in their ability to be reliable
Yes.
for whatever reason, and then promptly after gets these things that you would maybe have to at least consider when working with somebody. Do we continue to work with them right after each other?
Yeah, so at that point, again, I wasn't dealing with the business side, right? The financials, the funding, and once that came up, it pretty much lost all interest, because it's hard. You already have an unreliable, actor,
Right, like this isn't going to be smooth sailing,
right?
even
And
if that didn't happen.
right? And
Okay.
then that, and I think it was just an easy
he
walk
gets
away for a lot of
Me Too.
people.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then
Yeah.
that's the end of it.
That's the end, and it was, but again, it's just. It's weird to peer into somebody's world a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
Especially with the connection with the project, it's not like he's coming in and playing some different character that you're like, well, I'm not really getting to see anything, because this is kind of his story.
It was.
He
and it was also
is
to
being more of himself, I guess.
right. It was to draw storyline inspiration, right? Just to hang out.
Yeah.
Because while we're in the car traveling around looking for torchlighters, he's quoting Shakespeare, and not quoting the little quotes, like he's whether
That's interesting.
just not. Yeah, I mean, maybe it was a little random. Maybe it was a little weird that he just started belting out Shakespeare, but it was...
Well, but you, from your perspective too, like you've been involved in stuff, but maybe not anything that big, or like getting a name right. So you're like, maybe this is just how the actors are. I don't know.
I've had enough exposure to, like I said, it's a little hit or miss. But again, just somebody that you look up to, and because you're like, oh, this guy really, when you're young in the military, or like anybody that supports us, awesome,
right?
And then, but so you look, I don't want really a hero, but it's just somebody you really enjoy.
Well, yeah, you look up to in general, or you just have a good feeling about because they, were speaking to your community. I understand that. Yeah,
and then there were
and then this don't meet your heroes kind of thing. Not that he was. I think that's the harder part of this situation is, like, none of it is like implicitly a bad idea. It's like the combination of the things that were going on and things that happened make it the result, not what you wanted. Yeah, but it's like, oh, this idea and this person and like all the little parts of it make sense.
Everything was matching up, and he was really excited about the project. He was, because his circle, his Hollywood circle, these are all the some of these amazing actors, the Robert Downey Jr.'s and the Woody Harrelson, and like people that he was like, well, I could get, I could get Woody to play this part, and you're like, wow, like this
cool.
has
that would
legs,
be great. Yeah.
Right. Because there's nobody that didn't want to see him successful.
Yeah.
But, success would not be had.
No.
But it was this is such a silly little story, but I felt so connected with him at this point. So Tom was on Celebrity Rehab.
Oh.
I don't know if you...
I know of the show, but I don't think I ever watched it.
I don't think I never watched the show. But
you get it, what it's about.
And I don't know how many... it's all public. I'm like throwing names around, but he was talking about being on Celebrity Rehab and dating a girl named Carrie Ann Peniche.
Okay. And
this was a dumb little side story, but again, it just brought me closer to Tom in a weird way. But he, Carrie Ann was Miss Teen America, and she posed in Playboy and got her crown stripped. And if I'm misspeaking, quote, I'm hoping I'm being pretty accurate, but the story was from.
We're not here for facts. We're just
not here for This is.
Don't worry.
I wish he had a team of fact checkers that could yell at me from the back.
He's not paying attention.
He's on his phone like, no, I don't think she was teen.
I don't think she was.
No, Miss Teen. Yeah, no, Miss Teen Oregon. Yeah, okay. See, I'm already messing it up. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, she, her stepdad was was my orthodontist. And yeah.
So he dated her. Yeah. Obviously, this is later in life. And she's
they're both on the show.
Rehab,
they're both there. They're looking for love.
Okay, right. And
Love Island. It transitioned to another show.
Good clean love.
Good clean.
And you just happen to have her.
Yeah, her stepdad, and I hung out with her a few times.
You're like, we know the same. We're in the same circles. Woody Harrelson, this lady's dad.
We know the same people. No, but her stepdad ended up losing his license because he had a tanning bed in the basement of his orthodontics practice, and he had holes or cameras, and he was watching his. It was like an incentive if you worked there. No, if you weren't like just a customer, it wasn't like get your teeth whitened.
That's what I was thinking.
And your body darkened.
Then your teeth look way whiter. When
yeah, totally. Like I could see the business justification, even if it was just for tax purposes or to justify it.
Okay, so his like assistants or hygienists, whatever.
Because I was dating one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was dating one of the hygienists, and then she was friends with Carrie Ann. So Carrie Ann, we would go out. And
okay, so
that
you
was my
were
first.
Friends with them.
I'm not friends. I could.
Well, but you knew them more than just like he was your dentist. At some point. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but he was using the
I went to his house,
tanning bed
to
watch them.
Yeah.
Like he was,
yeah. Yeah. And that's all. That's all. He got in trouble. That was a story. There was a thing there.
Well, so right, but the connection to how you and Tom know the same people.
Yeah, right.
It's
beautiful. It's a beautiful connection
maybe not
between our
based
pasts.
on the sturdiest of foundations, the people that you're
it takes a village to create a
real mess
show in Central Oregon.
Do you have any of the footage still?
Yeah. I have but even the footage, I'm a little like when we were doing the test makeup, We did like guru makeup, that has, it's a white chalky sort of face,
Okay.
and then, a couple markings, and moving forward in some of the, just the overall being culturally
shifts.
sensitive and
Mhm.
shifts and being and recognizing and whatnot. I started getting like, I was like, oh, like I don't
feel
even
good
think the
about this.
the makeup is gonna fly.
Right.
But like obviously the idea was more like centered around, again, it's a group of, drifter, white hippies,
Right.
so it wasn't,
it's a communal space. Yeah.
but I was like, as we moved forward, I was like, I don't know if this.
So basically
Yes,
now
nice.
you're like, yeah, we have some footage, but it's not like you can really do anything.
No, I
with
mean,
it.
I wouldn't do it.
So
It wasn't nothing that's like complete enough to honor the dead.
It is weird because most of the time when we do this show, I get, I'm supportive of your ideas and like, yeah, so there is a part of me that wants you to still be able to get something out of it, but this really is kind of just a overall failure.
No, it was 100% a failure. And then we tried we were like, okay, we have the crew, we have the locations, we have this great opportunity, and so we started doing some sketch, comedy bits, and that was really fun. And they didn't, we didn't really have a plan. We thought it'd just be it was just fun.
Yeah.
Being silly and writing really dumb sketches and getting the entire town of Bend, Oregon, involved in our bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do remember that part, but I
they were-
feel like maybe that was it. You just skipped over this part of the story.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty close to when we first
Yeah.
met, or
Right.
just right after that. So that's what I was like, oh, that's cool. You're making
This
sketches.
guy's- yeah,
like
this-
I was just like, oh, this seems like a lot of stuff to just like do some sketches. Like that was my thought.
I think my dad, because I wasn't really going, wasn't like posting a ton of like, look at,
Yeah.
like,
Look what we're doing every day.
yeah, you
Yeah.
better have been cool to me because I'm on my way up, like I don't, whatever. But it wasn't like that. But it was, I remember trying to, because my dad doesn't, he doesn't really, it's not that he doesn't understand how, that movies get made and TV shows, but I never really shared with him the stuff that I
What
was
was
doing
going on, yeah.
comedically. Not that he's not supportive. It's just that he's just not associate. He's so disattached.
Right.
With,
Doesn't get it. Yeah.
like
Sure.
this idea that you want to go, whether it's perform or make movies. So
You
like
just
trying to
wanna
tell
do
my
stupid
dad
stuff with your friends or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, that I was filming with Tom, and because it was kind of out of the blue, and I think again it wasn't that he didn't believe me, but it was so foreign to him that I think that I was
And
like
he's like never
worried.
seen it.
Yeah, he's like worried I'm like doing blow and making like low budget porn, like I think he just kind of he was just like, I don't know anything
Cool,
about
yeah,
that. Like
fine.
I would just be like, well, we're filming this week, and he's like, how's the
don't
car?
know,
How's,
I don't need to know
how's the
anything.
car running? like I'm like
And then you don't have anything to prove it.
Right. And so until I started taking like pictures with, sending him like video and pictures
Yeah.
of me and Tom, like shooting the shit, and then, he's sending it to all his friends. Like, look, my son's hanging out with a covered addict.
Well, okay, that's pretty good then. At least you got that out of it.
Yeah.
Your dad can be proud, kind of.
Yeah. And
What
then
a story. I
Yeah.
love it. Well,
just one,
yeah, so perfect. Well, thank you for doing the show. We got to wrap up. Is there
we got to wrap up.
yeah,
Gosh,
is there where can people follow you, come see your shows or whatever
so
you're
so
doing?
Southern Oregon is the comedic hotbed of the West Coast. So on as far as following, it's just I'm pretty limited on social media as far as like I have a new Threads account, been talking a lot
Ooh, talking shit.
now. I got really into it for like an hour,
Nice.
and it was like
That's
and
pretty
then
good.
and then I realized that like I only have the bandwidth for one social media platform, which was Instagram. So
Yeah.
it's
Your Instagram is.
at JPDX.
Mm-hmm.
I don't live in Portland anymore. Like when I got that handle, I was like, Portland's the best.
Portland forever.
Portland forever. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't even think I was going to do anything with it, right? So it was just like, it was one of
Yeah.
those, you need a username. And you know,
like
but
J.
JPDX, 4 letters, sounds like a strain of HPV.
Easy.
I don't
Maybe
know.
it is. We don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Stupid joke. And then so we are working on some bigger shows and producing a bigger show in Southern Oregon. So we talked about this a little bit before.
Yeah.
And because Ashland itself isn't really doing much outside of the Shakespeare Festival, so it's definitely a town known for the performing arts. And so we have a really great venue, and working with some great comics.
Yeah.
So
be on the look. So follow you, and then
follow, because I will be
post about those things when they're happening.
I will be shamelessly self-promoting and putting it out there.
Follow him too, so that when I make him post things for me, then that's
300 seat venue, and I have 5 family members I talk to, so I need to fill 295 more seats. But yeah, so I'm excited about that, and definitely again invite you to come be a part of.
There you go. You'll be able to see us in Ashland at some point.
Yeah.
Great. Well, follow Josh. Follow us on Instagram or whatever if you haven't. If you're on YouTube right now, you can subscribe, do all that stuff. We also have YouTube memberships. And if you're on the podcast apps, rate, review, subscribe, do all that stuff. I do have one other thing going on right now that I would love for you to check out. So I'm filming a new special in November. It is a holiday-themed special. It's a holiday comedy special. And I want to own it, so we started a Kickstarter for it. So that started a couple days ago. It's going well, but I want to tell you now, you go to the Kickstarter, donate. There's a lot of different rewards, tiers, and stuff. You can even be an executive producer and have creative conversations about it if you want. But yeah, Kickstarter, if you just go to kickstarter.com and search Monica Nevi, it'll pop up. It just says Monica Nevi Holiday Special Taping or something like that. But yeah, that would be very helpful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Right now you can just keep watching Dumb Pitches.
You're weird.
Yes.